The Jake Asman Show will begin shortly. Thanks to all these great Patreon members who help support the show. Get your super chats ready. Jake will be here in just a moment. If you love the New York Jets, this is the place to be. And now, the Jake Asman Show.
Sexy Rexy wants to coach the New York Jets once again. Good idea, bad idea. We'll hear from Rex Ryan, who made his plea on the radio yesterday, and we'll get into all of it with Jets beat reporter Nick Faria. It's the Jake Asman Show on a Football Friday. Let's hit it and get it started. Man.
Shout out to Jet fans that are still showing up. I don't know what sort of dysfunctional family they grew up in, but I feel like if you parents were two people that should have broke up but never did, you're tailor-made to be a Jets fan because it's a toxic relationship. The level of swag that Jet fans wear, you would think that they had like 4 or 5 Super Bowls.
We bleed Jets green each and every day. This is not the same old Jets. We have Aaron freaking Rodgers. We have Garrett Wilson. Let's go. We have Breece Hall. Please subscribe and hit the like button below. Super chat, baby. Cut the line. We have Sauce Gardner. We have Quinnen Williams. The Jets bandwagon is loaded. Now it's time to talk all things New York Jets. It's the Jake Asman Show.
Here we go, Jet fans. Before we bring on Jet beat reporter Nick Faria, let's update the Tankathon standings after Thursday Night Football last night. The New York Jets moved up a spot thanks to Jameis Winston and the Cleveland Browns for winning an ugly one on Thursday Night Football. The Jets right now will pick 6 in the NFL draft if the season were to end today. Sadly, this is where we're at. 3-8, 6 pick in the draft, and an all-in year. Only the Jets. Joining us right now to talk more about the New York Jets is Jet beat reporter for Athlon Sports, Nick Faria. Nick, welcome aboard, my friend. Happy Football Friday.
Happy Football Friday, Jake. Great to be back on.
Yep, no doubt, man. So we got a lot to get into. We'll talk about the Joe Douglas firing that happened earlier in the week. First time we've had you back on the show since then. But I want to get right into the comments that went viral yesterday on the station I do some work for, and everyone I'll be on ESPN New York this Sunday from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. So tune in. I got a lot of on-air shifts coming up the remainder of this month and all throughout December. So more on that later. But Rex Ryan in his weekly segment on Bart and Hahn on ESPN New York basically made no bones about it. He wants to coach the New York Jets once again.
I look at it this way. Blow it up. We're going to blow the opponents up. There's way too much talent on this team to play the way we've been playing, period. And how hard can you get a guy to play? That's the thing. Like, nobody's seen a team going to play the way as hard as this team's going to play in the future. Trust me, if I'm the guy. Trust me. And that's going to be it. That's what's going to separate me from all these other guys you're going to bring in. You know, your Grudens, your whoever, whatever. Give me a break. They ain't New York Jets. I'm all about the Jets. And the great thing is, all right, yeah, second chance. You get a second chance at it and things like that. It doesn't happen very often. Yeah, well, when it does, it's usually special. And so we'll find out if I get that chance or not. If not, then, you know, hope they have one hell of a guy in place because I still want to be a fan of the Jets. I still want to be. But, you know, when I look around, I know nobody's better than me.
So I've been saying it now for really over a month. I'm not saying Rex Ryan's getting this job, Nick, but he is 1,000% going to get an interview to at least get the opportunity to try and get this job back. Your thoughts on Rex's comments there and just the idea of Rex potentially being the next head coach of the Jets?
So I completely agree with you in the fact that he's going to get an interview. I would be shocked if after all this posturing and all the push from Rex Ryan that Woody Johnson wouldn't at least try to get him in the building, at least have a conversation and get his opinions on what he feels needs to be fixed for New York. But I mean, this is a joke. I mean, if you were to even consider hiring Rex Ryan, you are ignoring a couple of facts. First off, you're ignoring the fact of how badly it ended in the last couple of seasons there. He finished below 500. Then, of course, you ignore the fact that he went into Buffalo and did nothing in Buffalo except for costing the Jets a playoff spot. So
pretty big deal, though, I will say. He actually, until Sean McDermott, he had the highest winning percentage among any Bills head coach since Marv Levy, it speaks to how bad the Bills were, by the way.
It speaks to how terrible the Bills were and how bad their quarterback situation was for 2 decades. But by and large, I don't consider this anything serious. I really don't. And maybe they change things up. Maybe Rex really captivates Woody Johnson, but it would be a colossal mistake, in my opinion. It didn't work for a reason. He had a couple great years with the franchise, brought this team to places where they hadn't been in over a decade. But at the end of the day, you need fresh blood. And the game of the NFL has changed drastically since Rex Ryan was the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, let alone the New York Jets. He would have to have a star-studded cast of assistants who have been working in the NFL for years now and still up to date with the latest trends in NFL offenses and defenses. To me, awful potential move here. I don't take this seriously.
Yeah, to me, while I'm not completely against Rex coming back, I'm more open to it certainly than you and other guests we've had on the show like Robbie Sabo. My big thing is who's on his offensive staff, because that's really the thing. Like, I have no doubt Rex would do a better job than the coaching staff that's here right now. His son is still in the league with the Lions as an assistant on offense. So I wonder if he would have any innovative ideas to bring someone from the Lions staff that can run that Ben Johnson offense here with Rex. But the thing with Rex that's a selling point for him is how attractive is this job? And if it's between Rex versus some other candidates who aren't great or don't have the big name or don't have any experience, would the Jets lean with Rex because they know what he is and he wants a second chance? And as he talked about, sometimes a second chance could be special. I also think, Nick, in this interview he did yesterday, he's talking up Phil Savage, who he has a relationship with. So I'm just thinking it's almost like he's throwing out that lifeline. Hey, Phil, let's get you to remain the GM. You bring me in and we're a package deal. It almost feels like that interview yesterday, beyond just saying he wants to be the coach, he was kind of planning a strategy how he would sell himself and Phil Savage as the GM for this team going forward.
And look, it would make a lot of sense because Savage is now the interim GM, and you don't fire Joe Douglas at this point in the regular season unless you have someone that you want to see do the job for a little bit before you open up the full interview process once the season ends. So there is a path here to essentially say, yeah, Savage would become the full-time GM. He would get his pick as a head coach, and then Woody would kind of push for Rex Ryan. There's certainly a path here, but I got to be honest. This would be I don't even know how I could potentially describe, but Rex hasn't coached in the NFL in close to a decade.
Since 2016, when I think his record with the Bills was 15-16 in 2 years. He got fired for the last game of the season that year.
Right. And the fact of the matter is it's been 8 years, and he can talk all he wants about how he's been staying involved in NFL processes and, communicating on ESPN and always keeping up to date with the trends. But let's also be honest, and let's also acknowledge that if you're going to take an analyst and make him the head coach or make him the GM, kind of like how, what's his name, from the Raiders. He was hired as the GM for the Raiders off of being an analyst at NFL Network.
Mike Mayock.
I got to be honest, it's a recipe for disaster. Everywhere you look, it's just a recipe for disaster.
So Nick vehemently against it. I'm certainly more open to it than most. I'd have questions about Rex's staff. That'd be my big thing. And also, to me, it'd be like the ultimate short-term play. Like, you try Rex for next year and you see what happens before you would have to then do a reset in theory after that. I mean, it also depends. Like, Rex has said in previous interviews, he'd want Rodgers back next year as his quarterback and have a young guy sit. And then he'd go out there and try and basically take the existing talent on this team, similar to what he took over, by the way, in 2009, and see if he can maximize what this team could do. More from Rex. Now, I don't have the video of these comments, but he did appear on Part of My Take on an episode that dropped today, and Zach Rosenblatt transcribed Rex's quotes here, so we'll read it to you. Rex Ryan on Part of My Take on the Jets show. Would you like to save the Jets? I'd like to. I'd let everyone know I'd be interested, even though I've got a great gig at ESPN. I have some unfinished business with that franchise. I just think I would get back in if I can make a difference, and I can make a difference with that team. If I took over, it'd be turned around in about 2 minutes. It starts with the passion and the energy that I would bring, and we're not going to take any poop mentality. I know if I get the opportunity to interview for it, I'm going to get the job. Said his top focuses would be on getting the players to play with more enthusiasm and fixing what he views as an outdated and predictable offense. Your thoughts on that? I mean, look, the biggest issue with the Jets for years, and this included when Rex was here, has been the offense. So the question then becomes, who's his staff? What is the offense they're going to run? That, to me, would be my questions if I was Woody and I was seriously considering bringing Rex Ryan back.
Yeah, so again, I see it in a comment here, but all this really is to me is Rex Ryan trying to galvanize the fan base to sort of get Woody Johnson on board. I mean, this is what it strikes me. Him talking about, I know if I get the opportunity to interview, I'm getting the job. What? So like it just
Rex. This is Rex being Rex.
This is Rex being Rex, but this is also Rex trying to get the fan base on board so Woody Johnson can get on board and have everyone be happy and hold hands and say, yeah, this is how we're going to turn it around. But you mentioned, what is the offense going to look like? Well, for most defensive-minded coaches, particularly ones dating back to the early 2010s, you're looking at a team that's going to want to run the ball consistently and play good defense. Now, that has been the mantra for the Jets, and they've tried to have that mantra for many, many years. But at the end of the day, you need to win by throwing the football. You need to win through the air. And the Jets haven't done it. Even with Aaron Rodgers, they have not done it. The offensive system is stale, and it has been stale for a very long time. I don't know, and it would be hard for me to determine if Rex would be open to a sort of 21st century integration of what offenses should look like in the NFL. So to me, an offensive scheme is not just we're going to run well, we're not going to turn the ball over, and that's it. You need to put up points. And you can't put up points if you're just running the football on first and second down and then hoping your quarterback bails you out on third down. That's how you got into this mess in the first place. So I look at this here and nothing adds up to me of why Rex Ryan would be able to suddenly fix this in 2 minutes, as he says.
To me, it'd come down to, so he knows they need to modernize the offense. Who's he bringing in to help him do that? I'll say this, though. With Rex, they'd be able to run the football with Brees and Braylon Allen. And that and him fixing the defense, you're at least competitive next year before anything else. Like, he'd give this team their first identity since he was the head coach of the ground and pound.
Are we sure they would like, but this is my thing, though. It's not like they were a dominant unit towards the later parts of his career. Now, he wanted to bring in he fell in love with Tim Tebow. He had the Geno Smith, Mark Sanchez thing. And I understand it was not all him. John Idzik did
what's funny? His best quarterback ever as a head coach is Tyrod Taylor at Buffalo for 2 years.
Right. And again, it's not all him. Idzik really did a poor job overall. But at the same time, he's still the coach. And he's got to get these guys ready to play. And you can't ignore the 4-12 season. You just can't.
No, it all fell apart there. But I will say, 2013, Rex Ryan getting that team 8-8 with rookie Geno Smith, that was one of his best coaching jobs. That team was bereft of talent and still won 8 games. So look, he's not my first choice, and I ran a poll in the chat for those watching live. Should the Jets rehire Rex as their coach? Yes, no, or not my first option, but open to it. Yes has 43% right now. No, 28%. 29% not my first option, but open to it. That's kind of how I feel. Maybe it's because I'm so down in the dumps about this season. Like, you know what? Why not? Why not? If we're going to be bad again next year, at least let's be entertaining all offseason with Rex as the coach again. But I just think I'm open to hearing Rex out. I think he's earned that given what this franchise has been since he left.
See, but again, he's been an analyst. We hear him all the time. We hear him in his thoughts about building professional teams and being able to succeed. And at the end of the day, great. He had a couple really solid years, and you mentioned that 8-8 run with Geno Smith, all that, tip your cap to him. But is he the best coach for this team? Is he even a top 5 coach for this team? I would say no.
Who are your top guys that if you're the Jets, you're trying to get?
Ben Johnson, Joe Brady, Bobby Slowick. I still say Brian Johnson's probably an underrated guy that people should be taking a look at. Any real top offensive assistant for the Rams and 49ers, certainly in consideration. And then Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator for Philadelphia. He's done a really good job fixing that offense up, so it makes a lot of sense in that regard. But again, like I said, you're seeing a pattern. Offensive-minded, deals with quarterbacks, and a first-time guy. I have the experience that I have as a fan. I have seen it work with some of these young guys that are developing and growing with the team. I've seen it succeed in Philadelphia. It can do the same in New York.
So you have no one with previous head coaching experience in your top 5?
No. Previous coaching experience brings baggage. I'm never really a fan of that.
Even Mike Vrabel?
No. Well, first off, I don't think Vrabel's coming here. I think Vrabel is going to the Raiders, number one. But number two, while Vrabel is a solid leader, not solid. He's a great leader. He's 100% a great leader. I have questions about how he's going to fix the offense. I have questions about how they're going to develop the quarterback. And then moving forward, if you have a good year and if you were to bring in a solid OC, you're going to lose him in 2 years to a head coaching job.
Who cares? You worry about that then. You got to get the program back on track.
You got to get the program back on track, but the way that you do that is to provide stability. And when you provide stability, that means getting this offense right consistently, year in and year out, having the same system moving forward.
I mean, if you got me Ben Johnson, I get what you're saying, but I don't know, man. They've tried the first-time coach without any experience in all these recent hiring cycles beyond Adam Gase, who never should have got the job in the first place. Like,
right.
You got
how many of those guys were offensive-minded guys, though? These young people, those coaches that were doing it for the first time, how many of them had the true offensive background of developing quarterbacks?
Right, but like some of those guys you mentioned, like ask a Texan fan about Bobby Slowick right now. They don't think he's any good. Like that, he's had a rough year. They can't score in the second half. I think this job is
offensive line.
Well, but this job is just so important to give it in the hands of someone that's never been a head coach before. That's why Vrabel would be high on my list. Brian Flores would be really high on my list. And by the way, to your point on Vrabel with losing the OC, I mean, it happened twice to him in Tennessee. And guess what? He hired 2 different offensive coordinators who became head coaches. So he's shown the acumen to be able to identify what competent offensive play callers look like.
Yeah, but again, if you look at how it ended in Tennessee, and again, this is my problem, and this is my concern with defensive-minded guys. They come in with a semblant plan of this is how I want my offense to run. And then you kind of look and say, well, it's a little bit outdated. You probably need a new play caller, but you're going to have to do it over and over and over again. And while Vrabel was able to be successful at certain points in Tennessee because of that, he also had Derrick Henry. He also had A.J. Brown. The offensive line wasn't atrocious. But then once those players started getting older, the guys started getting hurt, that stale offense really showed out. So it's not to say that Vrabel wouldn't be a good hire. It's just he's not on my top 5 list. And it focuses going back. You need to fix the offense. You need a quarterback. That's not going to fix either.
You need to get a house from Huga House. Look at the hat I'm wearing, folks. 15% off with promo code Asman at checkout. HUEGA house.com. They have a bunch of brand new hats, bunch of brand new beanies that were just released yesterday. So if you want to get yourself some hats ahead of the holiday season, 15% off, code Asman, hugahouse.com. With that code, and you buy one hat, the next hat is 30. That's right, 30% off. So buy one hat at 15, get the second hat for 30% off at hugahouse.com. Let's bring Nick right back on the show. Comments, questions, super chats. We'll cut the line. Keep submitting those. Your thoughts on where this team is at? 3-8. It feels unlikely right now that Aaron Rodgers were to be here next year, but there's still a lot of season left, so who knows what could happen here. Your thoughts on what to watch for post-bye. Still somehow 6 games left in this nightmare of a season.
6 games left, but now it's 6 games for guys like Malachi Corley really to see the field. There's no other reason not to put him on the field and give him opportunities. See what you have in some of these younger guys. I would be stunned if we see Tyron Smith again. I think this is the Olu Fashanu show going forward. And yeah, listen, it obviously hasn't gone as well as people would have hoped. It's been an absolute disaster. But at the same time, there are reasons to look forward to next season. You're going to have potentially close to $70 million in cap space if you move on from both Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. You're going to have your full collection of draft picks, and there are going to be high picks, particularly in the first and second round, so you should be able to move forward. And then, naturally, you want to see what you have in these young guys. Corley, Fashanu, I would say Tony Adams should be coming back onto the field. It doesn't really make sense why he was benched. And even the Athletics report of Woody Johnson stepping in doesn't really look good. But any young player should be seeing the field at some point over these next 6 weeks.
How about, of all the things in that article, Tony Adams being benched by the owner being something that's in there. I just laugh at that. What does Woody Johnson know about safety play?
It really just, when you really look at what the Jets are dealing with and each particular example and you try to rationalize it, it all really does fit. And I know there are a lot of people like questioning the Athletics report and everything, but it does make sense why Woody Johnson would not want Joe Douglas hiring assistants. It would make sense that he wouldn't want to give long-term money to a guy like Jerry Jeudy and nixing that particular trade, or giving Hassan Reddick the long-term deal that he was looking for, because what it showed is he did not trust Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh to begin with. He didn't trust them going into the season. They did not want to make any long-term implications after the 2024 season in case this happened. Right, wrong, and different. He sort of just stepped on the scale and said, no, we're not making these moves. You're not doing anything that would show that you're coming back for 2025 unless you make the playoffs. So that lack of trust in this report, specifically from The Athletic, was probably one of the more astounding ones there.
Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're one of the over 540 people in here live right now. We thank you for your service. We are seeking channel memberships here. I'll get one coming up. Yesterday, Nick, we did add a brand new channel member emoji for all the Asmaniacs. The Woody Johnson clown face is now live. That's the type of year we're having here. Hit that like button. Comments, questions, super chats. The Gusbuster hotline's pinned. Shout out to Michael for $1.99. Spencer starts us off. Nick, my favorite guest. Thoughts on Frank Reich, Kellen Moore, or staff GM/coordinator tandems from the Rams, 49ers, Baltimore, parentheses, well-run organizations?
Oh, I will actually change my original list because I completely forgot about him, and silly me for forgetting about him. But Todd Monken as well makes a lot of sense for the Jets. And if you were to pair Horwitz, the assistant GM, with a guy like Monken, that it would be a killer 1-2 duo in the front office. So my apologies there. You think of all the names at the top of your head, but Monken has to be at the top of that list. He's developed quarterbacks. He's done a really good job in Baltimore. He knows how to work with different kinds of quarterbacks, the pocket passers and the scramblers. I think he's at the top of the list as well. And I agree. You want a GM and a head coach that have worked together, that can build that camaraderie. I believe it was Costello that said that this is the first time in a very long time where the Jets are going to have a new GM, head coach, and quarterback all in the same year. So to me, there's some semblance of positivity in that regard, saying that you're essentially starting fresh at your most important positions. So I look at Monken, makes a lot of sense, as Spencer says here. Kellen Moore makes a lot of sense. I would stay the hell away from Frank Reich. I mean, he was great as an assistant offensive coordinator, if you will, in Philadelphia. But at the end of the day, Carolina, Indianapolis, it all ended poorly.
Edward, Rex would bring season ticket sales back. Money talks. Well, we know Woody listens to the fans. We know Woody cares about the PR. He's down bad with PR right now after that athletic story. It would be very Jet-like to be like, here we go, Rex. Be the face of our franchise.
Listen, everyone's down. Everyone's angry. Throw him back in there. He'll get the fans excited.
Incredible.
Good
Tyrone
Lord.
says, Bull, bring back Rex. His heart is stronger than anyone out there. Heart wins. Smarts is not always the answer. Go Jets, old school. I'm telling you, there's a lot of Jet fans who would love to see Rex back as the coach.
I mean, they would, but is that really going to be the best path forward for the franchise? I don't see it. I'm sorry. I don't see it.
Super chat here from C. All jokes aside, Rex comes in and is a true culture setter and genuinely loves being a Jet. His last time here, he hired a great staff, but personnel became an issue. GM pairing would be key. Open to it. I think that's well said, because Rex did hire a great staff in 09 and 10. Look how many of those guys ended up being head coaches in this league from that staff. But I guess my big thing would once again be the offensive staff in a modern NFL and who the GM is as well, because the thing that also did Rex in, while Tannenbaum ultimately was the final decision maker, when Rex first got here, the team was built through Eric Mangini. And then they did a nice job bringing in some Rex guys, making some good trades like Braylon Edwards, Antonio Holmes, etc., Antonio Cromartie. But then when it became Rex and Tannenbaum making all the decisions in the draft, that's when it started to plummet. That's when it got out of whack, which led to Tannenbaum getting fired after 2012, bringing in Izek, and then that's how we got to this mess where no one was ever on the same page. No more half measures would be my big thing for the Johnson family this go around. So I'd want to know who the GM is that would work with Rex. Like, because that's the thing. If you're bringing back Rex, it seems like the Jets are going to hire a GM first. So then that GM would have to want to work with Rex Ryan as their head coach.
Or maybe they just say, screw it, put in Savage for the years, see what Rex does, and move on from there. Again, you want to have the continuity, especially when you're trying to get the quarterback position right. And the problem that the Jets have had in recent years is 1 year you fire the head coach, the next year you fire the GM. But the head coach is already there, so the GM's got to figure out a way to work with them. Then the quarterback's in place, so you got to figure out how to work with the quarterback. Or the quarterback's not in place, so the coach has one thing and a new GM's on the other, and the GM gets fired, and it just gets completely discombobulated. You need a central thought process of how to build this team. And like I said, developing quarterbacks is at the topmost part of the focus on this team. Yes, it's about winning. But if you don't get the quarterback position right, you are not going to win. They haven't done that yet. So that's why I look and say, if you're a GM, do you want Rex Ryan in here who has really no experience developing quarterbacks, or do you want a young OC or just a young offensive mind that knows how to do it and has done it with some of the best ones overall?
Rick Kent says Rex Ryan's Jet teams were always among the least disciplined, most penalized team in the league. No. So Rick, a Jet fan, not on board with Sexy Rexy. J Quest writes in, I'm hearing Boy Green is going to interview for the job. Nick, any truth to that?
No.
Are you sure?
I love Paul. No way.
Here's my reaction if Boy Green gets an interview.
I'm going to lose my gosh darn bananas.
I really would. Dylan says, 5 of 6 next wins. Aaron is staying, maybe. I will say this. While it feels unlikely Rodgers is back, 6 games is still a long time. And if he's truly injured and maybe the bye week, his leg is healed and he looks a lot similar to the guy we saw, week 3 against the Patriots, for example, I don't think it's crazy. There's no evidence to support that happening based on what we've seen with his Jets team this year, Nick. But for everyone saying there's no chance Rodgers is here next year, I mean, right now they don't have a GM or a coach. For example, if they were to hire Rex, he's already said he'd keep Rodgers here next year and draft someone to develop behind them. So, I think it's unlikely, but those saying there's 0% chance Rodgers is the quarterback next year, I don't totally buy that just yet.
I don't see him returning, but Adam Schefter kind of made a report earlier this week and essentially said no one really knows because you don't know who the executive is going to be. If the GM comes in and says, I want to punt the quarterback decision from the 2025 draft. I don't want to make a quarterback decision this year. It's a weaker class. 2026 looks like it's going to be a lot better. Let me punt away that decision and have a bridge quarterback do whatever he can to help us win in 2025, whatever it is. And of course, if you're looking at, comparing all the quarterbacks that are going to be available, Rodgers is, of course, the best name because you're looking at Rodgers, Tyrod Taylor, Sam Darnold, and Daniel Jones. I mean, none of these people are good in any sense. But if you're looking at a bridge guy, Rodgers is your best path forward to remaining competitive. So if you're a GM that wants to be competitive in 2025, but punt away that quarterback decision for 2026, yeah, that would make a lot of sense to bring Rodgers back. We just don't know that answer until that executive is hired.
Larry says, Lee bringing Rexy back. I don't know who Lee is, but thank you, Larry. KJH, what other teams would even interview Rex? None. Shouldn't even be consideration. Jets fans are delusional and buy into BS. I'm telling you, it's a very polarizing topic here, Nick.
I actually agree with this part. I'm not going to call fans delusional. You guys are fans. You guys are diehards. I respect all of you. He's not getting – I would be stunned if he got another interview from any other team. Any other team at this point. He got an interview for the Cowboys defensive coordinator job and didn't get it. He lost out for that role. That was it. If he were to get a head coaching interview now with another team, that would be shocking to me. Otherwise, there's no other team that's going to be willing to sign him.
Vance Joseph ended up getting the Denver DC job. Rex interviewed for that job the previous offseason. So it was the last 2 years he's interviewed for a DC job twice, and that's really been it. He hasn't really tried to put his name back in the hat. He's going hard after the Jet job because he realizes this is the only job he can get. This is his last chance. Like, if he's ever going to be a head coach again, it would have to be with the Jets because no other team's going to hire him when he hasn't coached since 2016.
Right. No, exactly. People are looking and saying, well, he's a defensive-minded guy. We need help on defense. Let's see what his ideas are to work in the modern game. But the fact that Denver and Dallas did not hire him tell you that they weren't all in on his mindset. They weren't all in on the way that he was trying to run their defenses. And who's to say that that's going to be the same thing as a head coach? It just screams bad idea.
Bo says recreating anything from our past is the true definition of insanity. Love Rex, but we need to go in the new direction with this franchise. So I'm telling you, people split. Taryn says we need a staff who loves the Jets as a franchise.
No, you need a staff that knows how to win.
Right. They need a good staff. That's the biggest thing.
Win. That's all that matters.
When they hired Bill Parcells, he was coming from their division rival, and then he won Super Bowls with the Giants. So just shows you they need someone who knows how to win. That's the biggest thing.
And listen, people will look at those comments and hear me say they need a guy who knows how to win and say, well, that means you need a proven head coach. No, it does not. You need a guy that knows how to win as a play caller too. And that's why I look and say young, experienced play callers who know how to develop quarterbacks but have never been in the head coaching spot makes a lot of sense for this team.
Hit the like button if you're tuning in. Comments, questions, your super chats. We'll continue to cut the line, I should say. Appreciate everyone who's tuned in here. FPP says Rex would be great for Jake Asman ratings. Oh, of course. He'd be the best. We love Rex on this show. I don't know if he should be the head coach, but I'm more open to it than I guess seemingly some in the chat. And Nick is. Our poll results. Should the Jets rehire Rex as their head coach? Yes, 46%. No, 27%. Not my first option, but open to it, 27%. Nick, your thoughts on the poll results?
Good luck. Good luck if that's what you want. If that's what the Jets are going to do, good luck.
Unbelievable. As far as Joe Douglas's time here, Nick, why ultimately do you think it didn't work? When you look back on his tenure here, we know the record's awful, and ultimately people will point to that. But it's such a complicated resume because for all the bad, clearly there was some good. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lasted as long as he had to this point.
Well, that's what it is. He did some good here. When he walked into 2019, this team was barren of talent. Now you've got a nice collection of core players who are producing at a high level for the most part. And in that regard, he should be commended. Kind of like with Mangini, where, Mangini had some regular season success, made the playoffs, was almost about to make the playoffs in 2008. All those things come into consideration. But at the end of the day, he couldn't get the quarterback position right. Chad Pennington couldn't stay healthy. Brett Favre couldn't stay healthy. Well, the Jets couldn't get the quarterback position right under Joe Douglas. And when you can't get quarterback or the head coach right, that is why he was given a large leash to try and figure it out. But it's also why he was fired in the end. These are the two most important positions. He did not find solutions to either of them. It made sense why he was fired. Now, you fire him in week 12 at the end of the year. That can be discussed. That can be debated. But at the end of the day, I think everyone, including Joe Douglas, realized the writing was on the wall when Robert Saleh was fired.
Ladies and gentlemen, super chat from Dante. I say no to unproven coordinators and first-time head coaches. This Jets team needs winning and experience. Vrabel's my top choice, and the Johnsons should be doing tampering to woo him to the Jets. JK, LOL. They don't need to talk to him directly. They just need to call his agent and say, hey, we're interested in him as a candidate. We want to put it out there and start the dialogue that way.
Well, and again, this is kind of my point where over the last, ever really since Parcells, when was the last time you guys actually hired a non-head coach experienced offensive-minded person? You haven't. Adam Gase was an experienced head coach, and it blew up in your face. But that doesn't mean that every inexperienced head coach is going to be terrible. I mean, you can just have several examples where inexperienced offensive minds jumped into a coaching job, and it worked perfectly right away. Look at Sean McVay. Now, I'm not saying the Jets are going to hire the next McVay, but that should be the blueprint. That should be what teams are aspiring to be, finding the young head coach that's going to develop a quarterback and bring your offense into the modern era.
I don't know if he'll be fired, especially after last night, but Kevin Stefanski moves to number one on my list if he's fired because of the offensive background and the success he's had. A two-time coach of the year in Cleveland, of all places.
I heard he wasn't going to get fired, though. I heard Cleveland was like, absolutely not. He needs to get his quarterback right. And we kind of gave him Deshaun Watson. So
Dylan wants to know, why does Nick have an exit sign in his house?
I'm in a press booth. This is not my house. I'm in a press booth. I've got a broadcast in a little bit. So same old.
Mother effing Chew wants to know, is Nick doing the show from a laundromat?
No, I'm in a press booth. That's all you need to know. I've got the heater going on right now because it's freezing in here. Outside of that, same. I'm doing a job, guys. Doing a job.
Doing the job, baby. I gifted 1 channel membership, everybody. It's an honor and a privilege to simply do this. Bang! Listener Copper Johns, baby, receiving the membership. How about that? One of our longtime sponsors. Folks, Copper John's Beard Company, the best in men's grooming products. Check it out. Go to copperjohnsbeard.com. And while you're there, promo code Jake20 will get you 20% off. How about that? I paid $5 for Copper John's to get a free advertisement on the show. Unreal. Bo writes in, Nick just said a mouthful. Good luck. This is the exact sentiment we don't want to move forward with. Good luck. Secure our future with a modern mind. I agree that'd be the preference if there was an obvious candidate. I don't think Ben Johnson would take this job. So if I can't get him, I'm going to try and value someone with experience, which is why I have Rabel and Flores very high on my list, and even John Gruden for that matter, whether Rex likes it or not.
Getting in the modern mind is very important. And again, Jake, you and I are debating between veteran coaches and young coaches. It's a process that many teams go through. Every organization that's ever hired a head coach has to go through this entire process. Some of them are right by taking the experienced guy. Some are right by taking the non-experienced guy. It really is just a crapshoot overall. But I look at things and I say, look, there's a lot of examples where if you get the right offensive guy, things change drastically because now you can develop a quarterback. You can bring in a pool of free agents offensively that really help you out. And more importantly, you can keep your defense at an elite level without worrying about your coordinator leaving for a job. Look at, Doug Peterson. They hired Jim Schwartz. They win the Super Bowl. Schwartz was never going to get another head coaching job, but he was stuck there as the DC. When you have a veteran DC, he's not getting another coaching job. He's just going to be there to help keep your defense playing at an elite level.
This was an interesting comment here from Jake West. Question for Nick. Bobby Midnight for player development. Thoughts?
No, thank you.
Comments, questions, super chats. They cut the line. Appreciate everyone tuned in. Reminder, if you want to support the show, keep us afloat, join our Patreon, baby. A couple days left in the month of November. We update the list of names for every Patreon supporter at the end of each month. So if you want your name added to the intro, bonus shows that aren't on YouTube every month, access to our Discord, exclusive information about the show events, and everything else going on in the world of the Asmaniacs, patreon.com/Jake Asman Show. Huge shout out to everyone who supports the Patreon, specifically our most recent Patreon members, Paul Ledger, who signed up this morning, Metal Man, Justin, Tom, Dude Pickle, Mickey, and Phil. Thank you all for your very, very important support of the Patreon. All right, Nick, couple calls here. Let's see who wants in. First up is our guy, Neil. Hello, Neil.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
How you doing, Neil?
Nick, what's going on? Hey,
Can't complain.
listen, we're going to put the whole media staff in that room over there for next year. That's what Fireman Ed wants.
Yeah, Fireman Ed wants the media in the outhouse. That's right.
Yeah, that's it. We're going to, is that in the building where you are right now?
No. So this is, I'm at the post campus. So I'm on the far side where our equipment was for football last Saturday.
I'm in my media room. This is where I watch the Jet games. Let me see.
A lot of pain in that room.
A lot of pain.
Turn the camera around. All I see are couches. What are the TV systems?
Oh, yeah. Look at this. Huh?
That's a good one.
That's a 130-inch screen right there. And there's our Jets emblem. And there's the movie, the whole thing here. All the movies there. This is where my grandkids come watch movies. I don't watch many. I watch Jet games alone in here sometimes. So, it's soundproof. So I could scream all I want. Nobody hears me.
God, I can use the soundproof.
This is my secret sanctuary. I don't come here. I can't smoke cigars in here, so I'm very seldom in this spot.
Wow.
Anyway, how about the guy Borgonzi from Kansas City as the GM?
Yeah.
I want to poach Kansas City people, because again, everybody talks about Detroit because of the flavor of the month, but Kansas City has had a lot longer stretch of success than the Detroit Lions. What do you think about that?
I'll go half and half with you on that, Neil. Borgonzi makes a lot of sense as a GM. But if you were going to say poach a couple of coordinators from Kansas City, that means Matt Nagy. And I'm telling you right
no.
now,
I don't
Matt
want
Nagy
Nagy.
would be a disaster.
No, how about getting Bieniemy back? He was really good with Kansas City, and he never got it. Why did he not get a head coaching job? What?
There were a lot of factors that came into play. He didn't really interview well. He's got some baggage off the field. There's a reason why he did not get the head coaching jobs that he was trying to get.
But clearly, Kansas City, when he was at OC, they moved the ball well.
Really good.
They were creative. They had a lot of great play. I mean, that's why he was considered for the OC for a head coaching job so often, because they had success as an offense with him as an OC.
Right. And then when he's left, the offense has not been the same. I'm not disagreeing with you, Neil, but there are legitimate reasons why he hasn't gotten a job anywhere to this point.
But look, to me, a head coach is a guy that motivates the players on the team. And, Dan Campbell's a motivator. I mean, how much really do you think he contributes to the game plan and everything else that's associated with Detroit versus what the coordinators do on a weekly basis? I'm curious to know how much involvement in the game plan, again, I'll say it, and script of a game does say Dan Campbell have versus Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not disagreeing. There's a process to this, and guys that don't call plays as head coach can be successful. This isn't me telling you they can't. I will say, let's see how good Dan Campbell looks if Ben Johnson leaves. Will that offense remain elite if Dan Campbell is now having to pick another play caller, if he's got to be the one calling plays? Let's see how that looks. Because I think there would be a drop-off with the way they are looking right now, and they look like an absolute juggernaut.
I mean, clearly, the offensive scenario with Kansas City always remains constant because you have Andy Reid. And let's face it.
Right, but they've also struggled. They've also struggled the last couple of years, too.
And I think Matt Nagy's done a horrible job. Kansas City's offense has not been stellar.
But wait a minute, Neil. Okay, so we know Andy Reid's calling plays. We know all these things happen. We know that he likes to give his assistants a chance to call plays. We know Andy Reid's a great play caller. Are the Chiefs' struggles specifically because of Matt Nagy, or is it because maybe the system needs a reboot as well?
Right.
You can have it both ways. The offense has struggled the last couple of years. Is that Andy Reid? Is that Mahomes? Or is it only Matt Nagy? It's hard to just blame one person when it comes to that.
Okay. Jake?
Neil?
The Bonesy thing yesterday, this whole Allen thing. I want to know here. Oh, Jake, I have a suggestion. We're going to do the draft this year. We're going to have our own round table. You should have a Asmaniac round table. I do not want to be on it because I don't know shit about draft. But I want Allen. I want Dom C. I want a couple of draft guys. No, I want the real good draft guys. You know what I mean? The guys that do that on the chat all the time, that have their own shows. And I want to throw Allen in there and make a round table. How funny would that be if we did?
What happened to Allen?
Allen thinks he's a general manager, but
we have to have Gary on the draft committee, and then we'll go around during draft day, and oh my God, it would be absolute. There'd be 1 million people watching. I would go crazy, and we just sit there and we monitor each of these guys' picks. What do you think of that, Jake? That would be phenomenal.
I'll tell you what. I definitely want to get them on the record with what they want the Jets to do this offseason. All right,
I want Allen's picks for GM, coach. He says all these. He likes the guys. He likes the Detroit staff, but he doesn't think they're going to come here. So I want to know 1, 2, 3. We should all pick 1, 2, 3 head coaches, 3 GMs, and 3 DCs, and let's see who throughout the course of 2025 who ends up doing the best. Something like that.
I'll tell you what, Neil. You mentioned Dom C. Dom C will be a regular part of this show in the offseason, but never put him in the same category as a Gary or as an Allen. Dom C actually is legit.
That's what I'm saying, though. They think they're better than Dom C.
Right.
That's my point. I want Dom C to make them look silly. You know what I mean, Jake? I want somebody there that really, or Connor, Who's the other guy? Connor Hughes or Rodgers? Which one's
Connor Rodgers. Yep.
Connor Rodgers.
If Connor Rodgers were the Jets GM the last 6 years, the Jets would be in a way better situation. His draft boards are all public, and if you look at how he would have done versus what the Jets did, he would have drafted better than Douglas.
And I want to make one more. I watched BJF, who he did a whole compilation on the picks that JD made versus the Buffalo Bills. What's his name? The Bills GM.
Brandon
Bean. And he went through every one of them since 2000. Actually went back to 18 when Bean was still the Chiefs GM. And the amount of starters, he had to categorize. It was really a great thing. You guys should all look at it. It was starter, good player, all pro, etc. each year throughout the year. And we have only had, since 2005, good players on that draft board. Brandon Bean, he scored on a ton of players. And it really, signifies the fact that, and I feel JD's only strength is scouting players and picking draft people. He's failed in every other part of his GM.
He doesn't know how to build a team. He picks players, but those
he built
players
a good roster.
Exactly mix up.
Right, he built a good roster, but when you really look at his roster and compare it, Nick, to like the Bills and what Bean did, it's night and day.
The other thing is Bean, they got a good coach in McDermott, and they have good offensive assistants. So you lose Brian Dable, and then you bring in Ken Dorsey. Dorsey doesn't work out, but you have the quarterback coach in Joe Brady who can step in and do the job. They've had a process here that's worked for them, and it's worked for a very long time. The Jets don't have that. The Jets don't have a head coach, let alone an offensive assistant that they can trust.
Right.
Yeah, but here's the thing too, Neil. Brandon Bean also drafted Josh Allen. That's where it all starts.
There you go. Exactly.
He's gonna. I can't remember who said it, but I think it was Scott Mason who goes, Josh Allen's going to get a lot of people fired. Because he is such an outlier of big body guy, not accurate, but developed into a superstar. Anthony Richardson, you have all these other big body guys that aren't very accurate, never really shown to be accurate. There are concerns like that, but they're just athletic. That's going to cost a lot of people their jobs. It worked out for Bean. It's not working out for others.
Right. That makes sense. I just think, as far as we're concerned, and what Jake has said, and I'm feeling it, these last 6 games is going to really say a lot about what goes on with Aaron Rodgers' future. Again, we can't get rid of him and not have an option because Tyrod Taylor's not an option. He's 3-game player that's going to get hurt eventually. Sam Darnold, I have been a big criticizer of Sam Darnold. I've been waiting for him to, poop the bed this year, but he's had an amazing year. Darnold has had a really good year.
Helps when you got a top receiver, a good play caller.
I'm going to tell you something. Everything. He's going to get a boatload. He's going to get a bag. Right, Jake? I think Sam Darnold's going to get a bag this year. He's going to be the biggest quarterback free agent in the market.
The market is terrible. Yeah, he might. He's come back down to earth a little bit after he was like ridiculous the first 6 weeks. But look, he's young. He's got talent. He's also in an amazing situation. I'd be very weary of paying Sam Darnold big money off of one good year. I want to see it another year before, like what Baker had to do it for 2 years in Tampa before he got his contract.
Right. And the other thing with this, how many guys have a play call like Kevin O'Connell? O'Connell's a good coach. He's a good coach, and he's and another guy, first time with the team, developing an offense, has done a really solid job with different quarterbacks, all these things to take into account. If Darnold leaves, is that going to be the same offense that they're running in a new place?
Right. One thing that's clear with the Vikings that really impressed me, and this is where Darnold, and this happens with most quarterbacks, but where Darnold really slips is when he gets pressured. And the first, 5 or 6 games when they were hot, the Vikings, there were I never saw Darnold get touched. Forget about hitting while he throws or anything like that. He was not even touched in the first 6 games. Their line was like a block of granite. It looked like Brady's line with the old Patriots. And then we had a game or two where he wasn't good, Jake.
Uh-oh. Neil.
these goddamn exploding cigars. Like, gotta go, Jake. I'll call back later. Shit.
I bet you someone called Neil mid phone call there.
100%.
Good points by Neil. Darnold, where he ends up will be fascinating. The stage is set. Darnold signs elsewhere. Vikings we have J.J. McCarthy, but we need someone till he's ready. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, you ready to complete your Brett Favre chapter and finish your career with the Vikings?
Here's another thing that was brought up, and I thought it was interesting yesterday that I saw on Twitter. The Dallas Cowboys are a mess, just as much of a mess as the New York Jets. They just signed Dak to that massive extension. But if Jerry Jones is going to be Jerry Jones and try to go all out for Deion Sanders, but Sanders essentially says, I'm not coming unless you draft my son, could we see a situation where the Cowboys take the massive dead cap on Dak Prescott and just let him walk in free agency, cut him and move on? That's an interesting one, too, because Dak would catapult immediately to the top quarterback spot in free agency. Not saying it's going to happen, not saying it even should happen. I'm just saying if the Cowboys are going to be as dumb as they usually are, would not surprise me at all if that's something they would want to do.
That'd be pretty wild. That'd be ridiculous. Let's see. Tom Ace wrote in, I wish I was as relaxed as Neil was in this moment. Neil looking very relaxed in the media room downstairs there.
Listen, he's got the nice recliner. Beautiful spot.
Brandon Frey says, Rex runs a 3-4. We'd have to really change our team. I mean, Rex with this defense would be fun. That's all I'm going to say. Rex with this. And look, no matter which coach they bring in, with better coaching, this defense still has the chance to be very good next year. You still have Quinnen Williams, Will McDonald, Jermaine Johnson, Quincy Williams, Michael Carter, Sauce Gardner. That's not a bad place to start for any coach that comes in with that type of talent.
No, and that's the thing. It's not just that, because the players are there. There are a lot of really good players. They're going to have $70 million in cap space. You have, literally, you cut Devontae Adams as a post-June 1st cut. That's $36 million you save. That is a massive, massive haul that you can bring in, not just of extending your young core, but also bringing in free agents. Remember, the Washington Commanders this past offseason, they didn't lock up guys to 4 or 5 year deals. They brought in a lot of just developmental pieces, guys that were around with the former coach and Dan Quinn in Dallas, brought them in on short-term deals, and it's working out great for that team. That's probably the mindset of what the Jets are going to be looking for with this new executive. Maybe, if a defensive guy wants to bring in the 3-4, you bring in a couple of players to help facilitate that change. But at the end of the day, I think with the players you have on the roster, you try to keep them in positions that they can succeed in.
Hit the like button if you're just tuning in. Comments, questions, your super chats cut the line. Super chat here from B-Man who says, Jets need a head coach who can bring stability and credibility. Look, if he isn't the long-term guy, that's okay, as long as he pushes the team in the right path. I guess this is in reference to Rex being like a short-term guy. I mean, you could try it. Be like, here's a 2-year deal, Rex. It's really only a 1-year deal. You get one more year with Rodgers in this core, and we evaluate after. I mean,
but that's just wasting. To me, that's just wasting the core. I mean, your guys are just entering their primes of their career. The Sauces, the Garretts, the Breece Halls. You don't want to waste those kind of years. I look at it and I say, is it better to just, waste a year to see if Rex still has it, or try to get the right guy right away?
Super chat from the fella that is big. Tyrod for Bridge. Draft defensive tackle Mason Graham, round 1. Travis and a second-round quarterback battle in camp for the backup. Yours, Dart, etc. Gruden, Flores, Munkin, Glenn for head coach. Your thoughts on the big fella's off-season plan for the Jets?
I have no problem with it. I honestly would say if the Jets are going to have a top pick in round 1, I believe it was NFL Network, and I completely agree with him. The guy from Penn State, the edge rusher from Penn State, is probably the one that they would go at. They need to rebuild their defensive line. That's going to be a focus for this team. They've got some foundations set for their offensive line. Free agency can probably help at the right tackle spot. But outside of that, solidifying the defensive line. And then, second-round quarterback, if Quinn Ewers falls there. I actually really like Ewers as a prospect. I think he's shown some good stuff in Texas. I think he can surprise some people. He can shoot up draft boards in the combine, in the Senior Bowl, and all these other workout sessions and different all-star games. So I look and say, hey, Ewers makes a lot of sense in round 2. As for the head coach, You can get rid of any name that's a veteran, in my opinion. Get the young offensive-minded guys. Monken's not young, but he's never been a head coach before. That's why I say that he's at that list, that beautiful list of he's had experience. He's never been the guy, but he is absolutely the right guy for the job.
KJH says, why wouldn't they trade Dak? Chance that Dak and or Lawrence get traded if either of those teams are top 3. I don't want either. Just curious on Nick's take.
Yeah, listen, I'm not sitting here saying that the Cowboys are going to move on from Dak Prescott. That is not what I said. That's not what I will ever say. What I am saying is the Cowboys are really, really dumb when it comes to roster building. And if Jerry Jones if Jerry Jones wants Deion Sanders more than anything else in the world, not saying he will, not saying he won't, but Michael Irvin wants him and Jerry Jones loves Michael Irvin. If Deion says you got to get rid of Dak, sure, they could try to trade Dak, but is any team going to want to take on $60 million for a quarterback like that? Maybe not. And again, the dead cap is massive. It would be up to Jerry Jones. And again, not saying it's going to happen at all. That's not what I'm saying. But the Cowboys are the type of team to do some really, really weird stuff to get the butts in the seats, if you will. And I look at that and say, hey, maybe that's in the cards as well.
Jaro writes in, great GM equals get lucky at the quarterback position. End of story.
Yeah, pretty simple. I mean, you got some executives here that are really, really good at developing talent around every position. You look at John Lynch, Howie, a couple other guys as well. But at the end of the day, if you can't get the quarterback position right, it really doesn't matter. The 49ers would be dead in the water if Brock Purdy did not develop, because Trey Lance has done nothing. If they didn't have Brock Purdy succeeding like he did, there's an argument to be made that Shanahan and Lynch both are out the door, because they would not have been this successful. They would not have reached the Super Bowl. They would not have reached the NFC title game. That's a really, really good football team that hasn't figured out the quarterback position right. They got very fortunate that Brock Purdy was there and has developed the way he has.
Bo says, we need more beef to effectively run a 3-4. Well, if you don't think the Jets would add some beef to the D-line with Rex coming in, come on now.
Yeah, I think it's going to I think they'll add beef regardless.
Right.
I just don't think that it's going to be in a 3-4 scheme.
Now, as Neil would call them, are you familiar with the term big fatties?
No, but if it's a Neil statement, I'm sure it's something convoluted.
Ladies and gentlemen, more of your calls right now before we say goodbye to the great Nick Faria and his weekly spot on the show. We say hello to this guy.
It's time for another V-Man call. Hopefully he's not sleeping. Adios mio.
Hi, guys. What's
Hey,
up?
man.
So, what I was saying with my thing with my super
What is
chat
going
room,
on behind you?
nothing.
I hear some noises.
Oh, my mother's showing my sister a recording of my dog acting silly.
Ah. Can you send us the recording to play on the show?
No.
We love V Mom. Okay.
Yeah, no. So yeah.
Hi, Jake. Sorry.
It's okay, V Mom. You're welcome to join us anytime.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, so like I was saying, my super chat I was saying the Jets the Jets' problem is that they're just completely dysfunctional and unstable as an organization. What they need right now, more than innovation or any of that, they need is credibility and stability. That's my point. Is that they need, they need to set this franchise up in the direction. So that, look,
You get it?
yeah, maybe look, we don't know what the correct answer is because we don't know until it works out. For example, nobody knew Dan Campbell was going to pan out until he panned out. It's the thing is you don't know how this is going to work. So the important thing is, like I said, that's why I look at a veteran head coach option. Like I'm saying, because they've had success, they have a track record, and my important thing is because look what happened back in the day when you brought in a Bill Parcells and you brought in Parcells, it stabilized the franchise. It stabilized the franchise from like I said, from 1997 to 2011. The Jets were a stable, somewhat fairly competently run franchise because of the foundation that Parcells was able to, because of the culture and the foundation Parcells established in there. And he stabilized the franchise after years of up and down dysfunction. So that's what I'm saying is the important thing right now is to set that foundation. So look, if it doesn't work out in the long run, then you can get that innovative mind, that innovative first-year offensive mind that's gonna, do what he needs to do.
B-Man, have you thought about putting your name in the ring to be the next GM of the Jets?
No, I'd have to refresh my resume for that one.
Interesting. What would be the first line of your resume right now? I am curious.
Like, I don't even know at this point. Like, be just like, I'd be like, I'm willing to work for whatever you want.
B-Man, you have yourself a heck of a day, all right?
All right. Peace.
That's the end of that V-Man call. Now he can go back to sleeping.
Just tremendous. I haven't heard from V-Man in a couple days.
There's actually one thing that he said that I actually do agree with. When Dan Campbell was hired, actually, really, go back to 2021, the coaching cycle. The top coach available at the time was Robert Saleh, and the Jets got him. And everyone was saying the Jets got the top coach of the cycle. This is great. They're going to be able to turn everything around. The two worst hires for that period were Nick Sirianni and Dan Campbell. Of the coaches that were hired in 2021, there's 2 available coaches still left coaching their original teams. Nick Sirianni, Dan Campbell. Just because something is considered controversial, just because a hire is maybe not the most popular, doesn't mean it's the wrong one. I think people need to recognize that whatever decision the Jets make at both head coach and GM, it's going to take time. You're going to need to be patient to see exactly how this turns out, whether it's a veteran or a new guy. Anything like this can, one play, one press conference can turn around and change everything for this organization.
Nick, enjoy your broadcast at LIU. Appreciate you hopping on this morning.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Faria, Jets beat reporter for Athlon Sports, with us in his weekly spot. We'll get to more of your calls coming up. I see this question here from Oregon who says, how do you buy a membership? Instead of sending the super chat, you hit buy membership, but I believe you can only do it from the desktop. If you're on an iPhone, it doesn't work unless you're on a desktop. So that's how it's done, Oregon. If you want to pay it forward and gift your fellow listener a channel membership, no one's done it so far this show. If you do it, we'll shout you out as always. JJ with a super chat. You guys are sad. You guys, whoa. This is pathetic. Rex only had 2 winning seasons in 8 years with 2 different teams, and you guys want him back. He's a below average head coach. I don't think he's below average. I think you got to look at the circumstance. I don't disagree with any Jet fan. She's like, he's not my number one choice. That's kind of where I'm at. But I just look at the context of those teams, right? First 2 years, he's going to the championship game with Mark Sanchez as his quarterback. I think the 8-8 2013 season with rookie year Gino was some of the best coaching I've seen. I mean, that team stunk, and Rex got 8 games out of it. And then 2014, it all fell apart when the roster deteriorated. Izek didn't want to try and win. Rex wasn't his coach. That's why it never works if you force a new GM to work with a coach he didn't hire. That's why you have to have everyone on the same page. So that'd be my question. If you're serious about hiring Rex, who's the GM that wants to work with him? That's the question. More of your calls right now. Philly Noodles is next. Before I take his call, there is no one else on hold right now. So if you want your voice heard, if you're a first-time caller, you'll cut the line. We'll bring you right to the front of the show. If you want in, all you need to do to join the show is click on the StreamYard link I have posted or pinned to the live chat, sign in, and you'll be right on. Philly, what's up, man?
Yeah, what's up, dude? What's going on? I feel like we should get some young blood in here. Some people watching the show, they just got new memberships, some all the gifts. They should definitely hop on and see your takes. I feel like Rex is doing this media blitz. That's obviously partial reason why he should not be the first candidate. He shouldn't have to do a media blitz if the NFL thought he would be a good coaching option, right? Like that's how we have, the scuttlebutt of the Ben Johnsons and then this and that. It's because they are what's making sense in the NFL right now. And it's not to say that him as a DC isn't great. Maybe him as operations. Like I think if until we tackle the fact that the staff is more engaged in ticket sales in the building versus coaching staff and everything else, we will not significantly change the outcome for the future. I mean, you bring in Rex for 1 year with Rodgers. Once they bump heads, what happens there? And he already said he'll cut bait on players that he don't think that are going to come up to par when he starts calling them out for what he needs them to do. In today's day and age, D'Amico Ryans, Dan Quinn, these guys work with players, so they like them. They're likable. That's what Salah was and what we thought. He was likable, so players would like him, and that's why he would, stay and last and work. His model worked for the first few years somewhat, but it just didn't pan out. And then they took efforts.
I mean,
exactly.
it definitely worked. They won 4 playoff games in 2 years. I haven't been back since.
It's in the end, it's like, just give me VP operations. Let me know, like, as the Johnsons, you're like, hey, we need to take the step as everyone else is in the NFL, not just what we want to do, not what just the fans want. Because if the fans got what they wanted, like if the Commanders got what they wanted, fans, they could have asked for 1,000 different things than what they got. They got a guy from the NBA coming in helping make decisions with their new ownership. That's unheard of. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need that type of route, I think, to portray this to be a real fix, a real change. Because until you do that, you run Rodgers again. We can't visibly look at another year with Rodgers. If he goes down and gets hurt, then what? Things could implode again. I say cut bait, go get your VP operations, and let him make the choice of who he's going to get for GM, who he thinks makes sense. Let Woody needs to stand back and say, if I'm going to England and my brother's there, he's got to listen to who we put in charge, not who they feel like it. It's not going to work.
Yeah, Philly, I agree. I think the first step they should do is to bring in someone that is assisting Woody and Chris with hiring these guys. Curtis Martin's name's been mentioned. Pete Carroll's name's been mentioned. I agree with all that. Definitely agree with that. The one thing I'll say, though, like, Rex would only be able to get this job as a head coach. That's why he's pushing it. This is his last opportunity. What's the worst that could happen for Rex? He doesn't get this job? Okay, whatever. Think Rex cares? He's got a good job with ESPN. Like, Rex is pushing it because he knows, by the way, that the fan base, a lot of them want him back. We ran a poll this morning. This is just my listeners, and 46% say the Jets should rehire Rex. Only 26% say no, and 28%, which is basically the rest, not my first option, but open to it. So that's what Rex is doing, and he understands what he does care about PR, and he does care about the fans, which is part of the reason why the Jets have been in this mess. And thus, Rex Ryan will have a chance. I don't think he gets the job, but I don't rule it out. Anyone who's saying he's got no chance of getting it, have you paid attention to the Jets? JJ with a super chat. Keep Savage as director and help groom Curtis Martin as the GM. We have no idea if Curtis Martin wants to be a general manager. He wants to be an owner, not a GM. Then hire Rex. Need to get a former head coach as OC. Maybe Dable if fired. If you told me the Jets had Rex as the head coach and Brian Dable the OC, that's a great staff. I'm in. Let's create a true NYJ regime and identity. We haven't had that since Rex. I mean, one thing you can't knock Rex for is his initial staff in 09 and 10. Some of the best in the league. Mike Pettin, Anthony Lynn, Mike Westhoff, Bill Callahan. You know what would be an interesting name to watch for offensive coordinator? Mark Brunell, who obviously played for the Jets under Rex. He's a coach, I think, on the Lions staff. Let's see what his role is. He's the Lions QB coach. I wonder if Rex would bring Mark Brunell in as his OC because his son Seth is the wide receivers coach on the Lions. You'd have Seth Ryan come in for sure. And I'm just thinking about what Rex's staff would look like if they actually were to do this. I bet you Mark Brunell would be the offensive coordinator. Just a guess. No one's told me that. Rick says, I don't think Dable is getting fired. I think he is. Honestly, I'd prefer Brian Flores and Brian Dable as my head coach in OC. Now that is a staff. Jim Leonard as DC. Definitely could see Jim Leonard getting a job on the staff. He's in coaching right now, right? He was at Wisconsin as the interim. Let's see. Jim Leonard is currently the defensive backs and pass game coordinator for the Broncos. Jim Leonard is 1,000% getting on the staff. All right, I got open phone lines if anyone wants in on the conversation. Rick Kent says, I like Flores. He definitely wouldn't coddle the players. Brooklyn guy, deserves another opportunity. Learned under Belichick, then became a head coach. 3 years, had a winning season in 2 of them. Got fired because Miami tried to railroad him behind his back and hire Sean Payton and Tom Brady. Did a year with Tomlin in Pittsburgh. Has been the DC the last 2 years in Minnesota. I think he deserves a second chance. Tony G, Woody's son will eventually hire Rex's son. Brick Johnson will one day hire Seth Ryan, and the prophecy will be complete. Genergy, Brunell, wasn't he on the Jags previously? He was Sanchez's backup, though, in 2010. Kenton makes a good point. Why are we acting like Rex can't adapt? Everyone, like, you don't think Rex learned from his first go-around? He's talked a lot about how there's so many things he'd do differently. Even in that interview, the money quote is what we played at the beginning, but go back and listen to the whole thing on the Barton Hahn podcast. Kyle Clifton is up next. What's up, Kyle?
What's going on, Jake? So, note the shirt, by the way. I don't know if you can see. Jake Asman.
Oh, there it is. Yep, I see it. Love the polo.
Thanks, man. I'm out on Rex. Like, what are we going to do? We have, a young defensive end that we're going to have to essentially move to a 3-4 and kind of relearn the position. I don't see it, man. I don't see the personnel. I feel like we have a team that's kind of ready to win, and I don't want to take a huge step back. It's a retooling. It's not a rebuild.
Well, that's what Rex said, right? That's exactly what Rex said.
The question is who the quarterback would be.
Right.
And you're really not going to know that until things start to shake out a little bit in the offseason. But I think there's going to be quarterbacks out there that you might be able to win with if you have the right system. I love Rex. He did great work for us. It's 15 years down the road. I just don't see it. Like our personnel, I know Rex is probably going to want to invest a little bit more in safeties than the current regime had. It's just it seems like the defensive personnel doesn't fit, and I don't really necessarily trust him to go out and get an innovative offensive mind that we need to compete, at least in the immediate term. I just don't see it. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, look, he's not my number one choice, but I'm way more open to it than a first-time coach with a defensive background. I really value experience here. There's only one guy with no previous coaching experience, I think, is the home run hire, and that's Ben Johnson, and I don't think he would take this job. So if I can't get Ben Johnson, I don't want to hire a coordinator who's never been a head coach before. I'm very weary of that.
And, the thing could be that it could end up that the best candidates for us could be someone like Vrabel, who I think is more defensive-oriented, or someone like Aaron Glenn if Vrabel is off the table. And then you just got to take the best head coach and hope things work out.
Yeah, look, if they hire Glenn, I'm not going to sit here and be like, how could they? Like, I get it. I'm just weary of another defensive coordinator becoming a head coach for the first time, doing it with the Jets. Like, I want something different. I want experience, or if you could get me the bright offensive mind, they've never done that. I would love that.
Yeah, clearly a defensive coordinator, even when we have ties to, would be the third choice. I appreciate your time, Jake.
Kyle, good call. Appreciate you. That's no ghost. Aaron Glenn or Rex? Rex. Rex and Mark Brunell is his OC. Rex and Brian Dable is his OC. Rich says, hit the like. He's right. Tom Hayes makes a great point. The Jake Asman polo is great formal wear for any occasion. Any occasion. Whether you're out and about, you're in your house, you're going full boy green with your significant other. Any occasion, Tom. You know it. You can get your Jake Asman Show polo at jakeasman.com. If you're a Patreon member, 15% off. Bo writes in, Rex is a risk, something we don't need right now. I got news for you. All these guys are a risk. We don't know. Salah was the top guy when they hired him. Bowles was the top guy when they hired him. We don't know. Bond says, bring Rex back, pair him with an NFL level competent and talented OC. Who is that OC? That's the question. More of your calls before we wrap up show number 1 on the day. Boy Green, by the way, is joining us around 4 p.m. Eastern today. Let's say hello to Andy from LA. Hello, Andy.
Hey, Jake. How you doing, man?
What's up, Andy?
Hey, I've been on a while ago, so good to be back, but always watching. By the way, shout out to your last caller. His name was Kyle Clifton. 13 seasons he played linebacker. So I was like curious if the guy was actually Kyle Clifton.
Yeah, that's the former Jet linebacker.
Yeah, he was number 59. I mean, I started watching the Jets in the late 80s. When I was young, and he was a linebacker till 96. He was awesome. A lot of our younger Jet fans probably don't know who he is, but he was a great linebacker.
Do you work at Twitter? I see you have a shirt on.
Oh no, I work in gaming. This is an old Twitter gaming shirt I got at E3 in 2018.
Oh.
So yeah, I'm rocking. Hey, I love the old Twitter. Okay, so I'm representing. It's kind of gone off the chain. But I want to. Have we been talking about Josh McCown as OC? He's been doing a great job as a quarterback coach for the Vikings.
Because Flores is the DC there was some thought, hey, who would Flores OC be? Well, why wouldn't he take someone from the staff? He'd take McCown as the quarterback coach there under, Kevin O'Connell as the play caller as the head coach, and he'd bring him aboard.
Yeah, and on this Rex thing, it's not a good idea, guys. Like, I'm just saying this as a Jets fan. This is a Jetsian thing to do. I love Rex. We all do. And I know what he's doing. He's riling up the fan base. Woody's watching Twitter. But I would love to bring in Rex as like a personnel guy, like the Curtis Martin person. But I don't think he'll do that. He wouldn't want to do that. He wouldn't want DC. But I just want to give some perspective, as I know everyone wants Woody to sell the team. And he's getting old, but I was talking to my buddy who's a Lions fan. And, we have a lot of, obviously the Lions are great right now, but, they've been a suffering franchise. And he explained that the new owner, Sheila, is the daughter of the old owner who kind of let the Lions, just go, nosedive. And then when Sheila took over, who's the daughter, they've gone into a really positive direction. So I'm not saying Chris Johnson would do that. But Woody's not going to be alive forever, and I don't think he's ever going to sell the Jets. He's got 5 kids, 2 young boys that are in their 20s. But there's an opportunity for eventually Woody's family, someone is going to take over, and they could potentially do a better job than Woody. But it was interesting because it's a Lions perspective. He's like, look, doesn't necessarily mean you have to change ownership, but maybe there's someone else in that family line that could take over eventually.
Well, the bottom line is, if you hire the right people, all of a sudden you look good. That's what it comes down to, right? Like the Lions got it right with their people. I use the Knicks example all the time. James Dolan didn't magically become this great owner. He just finally got it right with his hires. You got to hope the Jets can luck into the right people for once.
Yeah, and I told you this way back when, but I'm, being a transient Jets fan, I grew up in North Jersey, but I've been here for 18 years. And, there's a meme that says, when your friends, there's 2 texts when it's your birthday, but when your team loses, there's 100 texts. That's me out here. All my friends are just love it. Not being by my fan base sucks, but I am going to the Seahawks game for Thanksgiving. I'm flying in, so I'm very excited. I forget, where do you guys tailgate?
So I won't be there because I'm on ESPN New York right after the game, but
okay.
I normally tailgate in L5.
L5? I went to tailgate Joe last year. We do Thanksgiving every year. So I'm very excited to at least suffer with everybody because I'm out here in LA. So, but yeah, appreciate it, Jake. Keep up all the awesome work, man.
Andy, great call. Appreciate you calling in. And that's a real Jet fan right there. Excited to watch Jet Seahawks after the bye. Love that. For anyone who has tickets to Jet Seahawks, if you want to donate them so someone could go to their first game this year, take their kid to their first game, etc., send me your tickets, and we'll get them in the hands of people that could use them. I know that there's 3 home games left, and I'd imagine a lot of people aren't going to use them, so we'll try and get them to people who can. asmanjake@gmail. I think we've given away between the Colt game last week and then the Texan game. We've given 50-plus tickets to Jet fans so far, which is pretty cool. So thanks to everyone who donates. It's awesome. Pappy says, we signed him to play this week. It shows us you want to win Rex this year. So you're saying hire Rex now? You're not going to do that now. You want to have a process. You're not just going to name Rex the coach now. Kyle Clifton says, yeah, I was great. David super chats us. Risk for young offensive minds, please. The NFL keeps changing the rules to help offenses. They're going to keep doing it. It's not rocket science. There's still a risk with an offensive-minded coach. Cliff Kingsbury didn't work out his first go-around. He was like the top offensive guy. Mike McDaniel's been okay. Doesn't always just work for the offensive guy. There's like Shane Steichen's been all right. Like these things aren't just, offensive guy always better. Neil says, Peter, we need a call from you to give a take on coach. I would like that. Call in Peter. He says, just get the right coach, Flores. Peter Castro all in on Brian Flores. Do we do what Castro wants? That's the thing. Pappy says, if he wants to be the coach, let's prove it this year. Pappy, well, I understand what you're trying to say. It wouldn't be fair to Rex to have him come in now with 6 games to go and judge him on how he would do these last 6 games when none of these coaches are the guys he hired. That doesn't make any. You can't implement what he wants to implement with 4 days to get ready for Seattle. If you were going to bring in Rex, he would have been brought in when they were 2-3 and you fired Saleh. If you were going to do something like this, not now. And Rex already said he would never come back to be the interim. He's only coming back if he's the actual head coach. I understand what you're saying. It's just not going to happen. If you're watching this live right now, thanks for supporting the show. There's over 630 of you in here. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It goes a long way. Even if you're checked out on the Jet season, you hitting subscribe helps the algorithm. And more Jet fans see the show and thus I could pay the bills, baby. More of your calls right now. Let's say hello to Peter Castro.
The biggest mistake they made is not firing this whole crew of shitheads before the season started. The coaches can't make decisions. They don't correct anything. I mean, this is a joke. Jake, I was right. Jake, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Listen, there's 2 choices for this team. It's either Flores or Grable. Forget about all the rest of these guys. Forget it. This guy's not coming. He wants too much money. This guy. The best choice for this team is Brian Flores. He's tough. That defense will be playing like you've never seen it play before. And he's got to hire a good offensive coordinator. It's very simple. Woody's got to get rid of everybody in that building. All of them. The scouts stink too. They all stink. They've been there too long. They're no good. And you know what? Everybody's blaming Woody. What would you do if you spent all this money on all these players that stink? I'd fire a whole bunch of them too. They all stink. They don't know what they're doing. All right. Aaron Rodgers, he's paying him $50 million. He can't move. He's running around with cement shoes on. All right. Who knew that? Who scouted him? Who looked at him the last few years? All right. You take a shot with him. You see what but you know what? We played 8, 9 games. He's done. He's done. He could be good, but he needs a Berlin Wall in front of him. He can't get rid of the ball. He's strong. He's doing the dot and dell behind the line of scrimmage. He's slow as shit. I can't even watch him. Linemen are catching up to him. I mean, it's ridiculous. He has guys open all over the field, and the rest of the coaching staff just stinks. Listen, I was right 10 months ago when I told you that the coaching staff stunk. All we had to do was stick a quarterback in there. Okay, I agree. We had to stick a quarterback in there, but Aaron Rodgers was the wrong quarterback. He wasn't the right one.
He was the only option, though. It didn't work, but it was still the right move to try and get him.
I agree with that. It was the right move, but you know what? Now you know it was the wrong move.
Well, yeah.
Now you know.
The 3-8, of course, has been the wrong move. No one could have expected this. I will say this. I am curious to see what Aaron looks like after the bye if his leg's healed. Because if he moves around a little bit, I'll be like, okay, he's hurt. If it's more of the same, then we already know.
I had enough for Aaron Rodgers. I don't care if his leg is going to hurt after the game again, or every time he plays, something's going to hurt because he's getting hit and he doesn't like getting hit. If you watch him behind the line of scrimmage, he's doing the same thing Zach Wilson used to do. He's looking at the line. He's doing the dot and dell with his feet. His feet are all over the place. He's throwing all off balance, and he's throwing 5-yard outs. That's the game plan, to throw a 5-yard out. He can't throw the ball down the field. I mean, I get nauseous when I watch them. I actually get nauseous. I'm watching them. I'm going, what? And the defense, Ulbrich, I would throw him out. He is the worst defensive coordinator I've ever seen in my life. I don't know. Saleh must have had a lot to do with the defense. He stunk too. But Ulbrich, he doesn't blitz. 3rd and 15 against Richardson on Sunday. 3rd and 15. The guy is wide open 20 yards down the field. He's rushing 4 guys. He's a retard. Why would you do that?
Don't use that word. Don't use that word.
Why? Okay, he's a genius. Why wouldn't he throw the ball down? Why wouldn't you blitz? Why wouldn't you blitz? I mean, come on. And then 4th and 2, he has the guy come out and punt. What an ass! I wanted to throw something at the TV. How do you possibly punt the ball back to them like you're going to the Super Bowl? You're 3-7. Go for it, you jerk. He doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. They stink. I mean, I can't blame Woody. If I was Woody, I would have thrown them all out of here. All of them. They stink. They don't know what they're doing. They know nothing about football. They don't know how to scheme. I don't know where they got these guys from. They're horrible. This is a friggin' nightmare. You're talking about Rex Ryan. Forget about Rex Ryan. I know everybody wants Rex Ryan, but you forgot his last 2 years. You forgot what he did in Buffalo. You know what? He was a good defensive coordinator, but I would never put Rex Ryan back in charge of this team. Never. Brian Flores is the pick. He'll straighten that team out. Next year, you'll have a good team. And as far as quarterback go, you know what? You can get a couple, use Tyrod Taylor. You draft a quarterback. You put Justin Fields or one of these other guys behind them in there, and you become a little innovate. You got to innovate a little bit, which this staff can't do. They can't innovate a 1-yard 3rd and 1. They don't know how to get it. I mean, they're useless. So if you have a good coaching staff, you're not going to have these problems. These guys are terrible. They're horrible. I don't think that they practice all week. Jake, do they practice all week? You tell me. You watch football.
I don't think so.
Me either. He's throwing the ball. And nobody's even looking at him. He turns around. Everybody's turning around. I mean, what's going on here? Obviously, they packed it in. But the best thing for us to do is to head in the right direction now, get the right coach, get these guys all out of here. I don't want to see Hackett. And if Rodgers don't like it, give him his walking papers too. He stinks too. They can all go. Every one of them deserves to go. And I don't blame Woody. He had enough. Look what he did with the kicker. Maybe Joe Douglas did that on purpose. I'll ignore the kicker, and we lost him to Kansas City, right? Because Joe Douglas wasn't doing his job. Maybe that was the thing that pushed Woody over the edge. I don't know. He's walking around, sulking around. Get him out of here. Get them all out. They didn't win. They didn't have any. Last year they didn't put a second string a good quarterback after Zach Wilson. This year it was a kicker. Next year this year was Reddick and the kicker. Who knows what it would be next year? Same shit. I'm glad they're all gone. Get them out. And you know what? You can blame Woody all you want. If I was the owner, I would have kicked him in the ass on the way out. Get out and don't turn around and look back, and don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. They sucked. They absolutely suck, all of them.
Peter, thank you.
Furline, he stinks. Get him out of here. Aaron Rodgers, he's as bad as Simeon. He's not going to get better. He's 41 with a bad leg. He's terrible.
That was an all-timer from Castro. That's a new Jet fan in hell waiting to be put together by Gator if I've ever seen one. Incredible. The Giants and Daniel Jones have come to terms on a release, a mutual release. You saw this coming, right? They benched him because of the injury guarantee. They're 2-8. So Daniel Jones will go through waivers, and because of his contract, no one's picking him up, which means he'll be a free agent. So see you later, Daniel Jones. Somehow you were a starter in this league for basically 6 years, which is remarkable. Philly Noodle says, I must find a Kyle Clifton number 59 jersey. He's one of us. Amen. Dante with a $20 super chat. Dante, you're the man, baby. I can't take anyone seriously when they suggest Johnson or Glenn. Jets need proven experience in winning. Vrabel is the answer, in my opinion. The second the season's over, Jets should be on the phone with Vrabel. He's my number one guy, and I give him full autonomy. We say, you're in control. You pick the GM you want to work with. That's what I would do. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that call by Peter Castro certainly got him in the top 10 in this month's Asmaniac rankings. But is it possible that that call by Peter Castro maybe won him the month in Asmaniac Madness? Just saying. That was a strong call. Aaron Rodgers can only be good if he's got the Berlin Wall in front of him. Snake says, hire Peter Castro, head coach, fireman, Ed, defensive coordinator. Yeah, baby. I'm in on that. Who's stopping that team? Asman says, stop holding back, Peter Castro. Tell us how you really feel. Alan says, Castro is top 5. Will, pure heat all the time. 3 siblings. Peter is goated. Jay, we got to get Jay back in your name. I don't like this 3 siblings nonsense. Genergy says, we need PETA as co-host. Cement you is another great line by Castro. Also, the way he refuses to learn that Obrick's name is Obrick and not Ulbrich. Just incredible. More of your calls right now. Ladies and gentlemen, another heavy hitter is on the line. Edward Ziff joins us. What's up, Edward?
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me?
We hear you.
All right, good. That's a good thing. I'm a heavy hitter. Oh, that's nice to know. So, I mean, what more do we need to say about this shit? Oh, my God. I mean, I'm a professional dumpster truck driver, so I have a unique insight into the fact that the Jets are a dumpster fire. It's crazy. But we're all kidding aside. Woody Johnson is not just about, the team winning, obviously. But I think Rex Ryan would get the season ticket buyers excited again.
Definitely.
If not for nothing, he'd be freaking entertaining as hell. I mean, just from a pure entertainment standpoint. I mean, oh my God, he would get every back page quote. The Jets would be splashed everywhere. Thing is, who's going to run the offense? That was Rex's biggest problem when he coached last time.
And the quarterbacks he worked
good.
with too,
Yeah.
right? I mean, Sanchez it's turned out to be nothing special as a starter. It's funny. The best quarterback Rex was ever, coaching is the Jets' backup right now, Tyrod Taylor.
Oh yeah. To tell you the truth, all that hoopla about Woody saying he wanted to bench Rodgers, I think he wanted to bench Rodgers because Rodgers was hurt.
Yeah,
and he didn't want to hurt. He didn't want his, $50 million quarterback playing hurt. I think that was the thing behind it. I mean, say what you want about Woody. I mean, he's a billionaire, so he's not a freaking idiot. I mean, he runs Johnson & Johnson. I mean, he's not a complete moron. I mean, he may not have all the acromens with football, but I mean, he's not a stupid businessman. So, and quite frankly, after what's been happening the last year and a half, he figured, well, these professionals aren't getting it done, so maybe my input might help. Who the hell knows? He figured, why not? Because for the most part, he pretty much left them alone the first 3.5, 4 years. He let them do what they do. It's only the end of last year and this year that he was meddling, and it was probably because he was just pissed off. because he even said the best coaching the best selection of players and talent that he believes he's had since he's owned the team, and then these guys just couldn't figure out how to use them. And he's like, "What do? I pay these guys, and I got these coaching staff, and I give them all these blue chip players, and they perform like mules. I mean, it's just not good, not good." So I can understand why Woody did what he did. I still think he should have stayed out of it, but I understand why he did what he did.
Well, you have to hope that, a big selling point of this job is, hey, you have full autonomy. Like, it's you running the show. That's what you had to convey to any candidate who's serious about this job.
Well, if you remember, the times when Rex was most successful is when he had a good stable of players. He can coach. That's the thing. Rex may not be good at picking out the meats and vegetables, but he sure can cook when he gets them. And that was the problem with this team. Joe D gave them, prime meat and fresh farm-raised vegetables, and it's just Sala and company just couldn't cook. They burnt the meal. That's basically what it was. They couldn't figure out how to take the ingredients and make a good meal out of it. Tastes like shit.
When was the last thing?
A bad taste in our mouth.
What was the last thing you cooked?
Oh, I made chicken parm last night. It was good.
Really?
I did.
Your favorite recipe?
My house, I don't have an oven in my house. I have the dryer where the oven is because it's got the 220-volt socket. But I got this really nice hot plate set up. It's kind of like a skillet thing that I put on top of my dryer, and so I sauteed the chicken cutlets in there and flipped them over, poured some sauce over it. Not Sauce Gardner, tomato sauce. Sprinkle a little cheese on top, covered it, lowered the heat down, let it simmer for about 10 minutes till cheese melted. Delicious, man. It's good stuff.
Steady Eddie, man.
I'm diabetic, so I have to be careful what I eat. I got to stay away from the pasta and the bread and the potatoes and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it was just chicken parm. It was good. Freaking awesome, man.
I love it. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Edward. You having a good dinner is good for all of us.
Yeah, well, my coaching picks are, the same as everybody else's, Vrabel, Rex, or Flores. I think those three guys would be good. And I know none of them are offensive guys, but the thing I like about Vrabel was, I mean, he picked two offensive coordinators that got poached. So, I mean, obviously he's got a little bit of talent in that department. So that's a good thing. The reason I like Rex the most, and I got to tell you why, he's one of us. I mean, he's genuinely one of us. He grew up with his brother, Rob, on the sidelines, watching his dad coach the team when they were winners, when they were a great team. And he's a Jet fan. I mean, Rex Ryan bleeds green. And I think Itzik really just didn't want him as his coach, and just was put there to fix the financial things that Mike Tannenbaum messed up. Now, Mike wasn't that bad with talent selection. I mean, he wasn't great, but he wasn't that bad. And he made a couple of financial things that were rough. And that's why he brought in Itzik. He brought in Itzik to clean the books, not to fix the team. And Rex just was the victim of that. Because, like you said, one of his best coaching jobs was with Gino when they went 8-8. They had nobody. I mean, they literally had nobody left. Everybody was gone. And it wasn't fair to Rex. But when you give him some talent, he gets the most out of him. I mean, he's passionate. Players want to play for him. They'll run through a brick wall for that guy. And that's what you need in a head coach. So
I get it, Edward. I get it. Good call. Not my first choice. I'm not as against it as some. That's how I look at it. How funny would it be, by the way, if the Cowboys signed Daniel Jones and he plays against them on Thanksgiving next week? It could happen. Remember, Baker Mayfield got released a couple of years ago, and then the Rams picked him up. He started the game on like a Thursday night on like 2 days' notice, and they won. Remember that? If I'm the Dolphins, I sign Daniel Jones. right? You're still in the playoff mix. Tua's back, but he'd be better than any backup option you could find. But I'm rooting for Jerry Jones to be like, let's make the season interesting. Let's bring Daniel Jones and start him against the Giants. Doug on his bed is up next. Hello, Doug.
Don't get me wrong. I love Rex, especially for 09 and 10, but I more so look to his later years and then also Buffalo. Like, those didn't go as well, and that's his most recent coaching stuff. Again, I love Rex. What he did in 09 and 10 cannot be ignored, but it's hard to also ignore the other ladder of his career. Also, I think if we get him, he has to be fat again, because that's when he was good.
Yeah, the only caveat of bringing Rex is he's got to lose the lap band, and we need full fat Rex. All right, we're not messing around here.
If we're getting fat Rex back, I sign up immediately right now. But like skinny Rex,
this is the version of Rex we need.
Yeah, here we come, baby. Here we come. Here come the Jets, baby.
That's what we need. We need fat Rex. So it's just crazy. But yeah. Who knows? This season sucks. That's all I'm at this point. This season sucks. It's just not fun.
Doug, thank you. This season sucks. Today's big take from Doug on his bed. You're not wrong, Doug. You're not wrong. More of your calls right now. Victory Monday's next. Hello, Victory Monday.
Hey, Jake, how's it going?
I'm hanging in.
I'm proud of Daniel Jones for making $80 million off the Giants. I think that was a good accomplishment for him in his career. I don't know how much longer his career will be. I'm sure he'll be a backup for the next 5-6 years, but it's just crazy, man. And good for them, honestly, for setting up their contract that way, because I think they were going to pay him $160 million, but only half was guaranteed. So they paid him $40 million a year for 2 years.
It was a 2-year commitment. It was always structured where they felt like they had to pay him after they made the playoffs and won a playoff game, and he played well against the Vikings in that game. So they paid him, but it was a 2-year commitment, and now they could get off the contract, which they did, and it's $23 million in dead cap next year, which is fine. That's not crazy. But it's like, what are they doing at quarterback? And more importantly for the Giants, are they going to keep Joe Shane and Brian Dable as their general manager and head coach? Because if the answer is yes, and then they decide to draft a quarterback, you almost got to give those guys at least 2 years, because you wouldn't draft a quarterback. They're not going to be good next year with a rookie quarterback. Let's say they go, 6-14 or 6 I guess it'd be, I'm bad at math. They'd go 6-13, whatever it is. I'm really bad at math. It'd be 6-11. And my big thing would be, okay, well, then you're going to fire Shane and Dable, and then that rookie you drafted is going to learn a new system. You know what I mean? They're in a crossroads where if you're going to draft a quarterback, you're now deciding, are you committed to having Joe Shane and Brian Dable be the ones to oversee that?
Yeah, that was the biggest thing I was going to bring up. Is are we going to have 2 New York teams fully rebooting this offseason, fighting for the same people? I hope not. I actually hope for our sake that we don't have another New York team kind of in the mix. I'm sure the Giants kind of have a little bit more clout because of their history, but like you said, the last 10 years, they've been a clown show too. So I just don't want them in the mix. I would love for them to keep at least the GM, because I think GM's going to be harder for us to find. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, man, it's just crazy. It's been a terrible, we can't just have all the teams in New York do well. We can't have one good year across the board. It's got to be a mess for some of them. So, oh, well, I don't want to switch too much to the other sports, but how are you feeling about the Yankees getting Soto back?
I still think he will be a Yankee, but I guess we'll see. If it's only about money, there's no excuse for the Mets to not have the highest offer. But I don't think it's only about money for him, despite what the perception is about Juan Soto.
No, I mean, I think he cares a little bit more than that about his legacy and stuff. Either way, whatever team he picks next, he needs to be confident that, the next 10 years they're going to be in the right direction. So if he bases it on the farm system, I don't know. Maybe the Mets have a little bit of a head start there. But yeah,
I don't think he's basing it on that. I think it's I think at some point the money, I think if it's close, he would prefer to stay with the Yankees. I really have no doubt about that. You can say whatever he wants. Public Judge said the same thing when he was a free agent. He took $40 million less to stay with the Yankees. So we'll see. But if it's only about money, I mean, there's no reason why he wouldn't go to the Mets, but I don't think money is the only thing he cares about in this.
Yeah. Well, all I could say, since it's a bye week, is all the tiebreakers. It'd be nice to see them lose and just see if we have any life at the end of this weekend.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I'm not even looking at that, man. Good call. I can't. TJ says Jake Bartscott said on Get Up, best coaching candidates, Rex. I mean, I would expect Bart to have Rex as his number one guy. I wonder if Bart would get on the Jet staff. Would he want to get into coaching? Let's say hello to JJ. Hello, JJ.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Long time no see. Quick,
Great
rapid
connection
fire.
today. We really hear all your points.
Thank you. Great connection as always. Real quick, Rex, we have
That was sarcasm, JJ. Your connection was actually like 1997 AOL dial-up. the great JJ audio, folks. There's nothing like it. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us right now is someone who has gone head-to-head with Gary many times on the Bobby Midnight program. We say hello to Indy Jets. What's up, Indy?
Good morning, Jake. Good morning. I loved your banter yesterday on the Bobby Midnight show. That was awesome.
Seems like everyone enjoyed it besides Bobby, which is unfortunate.
Well, yeah, and it's just Bobby. We love him anyway. I found an interesting stat today. I just looked, and we always talk about Brees Hall, and I've heard you bring it up several times. How many games he's had of 20 attempts or more. And he actually has more games of single-digit attempts than he does in 18 attempts per game in his entire career with the Jets.
Look, I've questioned how they're not utilizing Brees Hall way more. I mean, that's the thing with Rex, by the way. You know what the identity of the Jets next year would be? Ground and pound, baby. Brees and Braylon Allen.
Yeah. How could we not love Rex? That's where I was going with this. How could we not love? Is Rex my number one candidate? Maybe not. But if he does get the job, I can't find really a negative for it because we've got the horses now for exactly what Rex wants.
Look, I don't think it's the worst idea. I believe in second chances. I believe Rex has learned from his first go around. I think it would come down to who's the GM, because I don't want Rex really having a huge say in all the personnel, because that's when it started to get bad post Mangini's players leaving. And I also want to know who's his coaching staff. He built a really good staff last time, so I would have some faith that Rex, who shows a son in the league, is in tune with who some of the top coaches still are. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I don't know who he struggled with keeping offensive coordinators. I mean, Sanchez went through, 4 coordinators in 5 years or something like that. We don't need
post Schottenheimer, he brought in Tony Soprano, which was a brutal hire. So Rex has got to own that.
Yeah. And so hopefully, he can, if he does get the job, he can make these good decisions again, or not again, but, and surround himself with the right people. Let his energy feed off, or let the players feed off his energy, and let the coaches do their job. That's really all. But I appreciate you. Thanks, Jake.
Indy, keep fighting that good fight against Gary, all right? Cigarettes are healthier than salads, according to that man.
Well, I really woke up this morning and I wasn't quite sure if I was going to have I saw that I've got a head of lettuce in the refrigerator and I opened it up and it scared me and I shut it and I didn't even eat it.
Andy, I appreciate it, man. Great call. Oh, that's funny. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. That's what it's all about, baby. All right, here's the schedule the rest of the day. Jake Asman football show with Cole Thompson, 2 p.m. Eastern. Boy Greens return to this show, 4 p.m. Eastern. Get ready, baby. It's all happening. My name is Jake Asman. This has been the Jake Asman Show. Thanks for watching. If you haven't joined the Patreon, you're missing out. Get involved, baby. It's where the magic happens. Looking forward to adding many more of you to our Patreon crew. JETS, 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 Jets. Hang in there, folks. We're back in a few hours. All right, more of your calls right now. Ladies and gentlemen, let's say hello to Robert C., who's next. Hello, Robert.
Hi, Jake. How are you?
What's up, Robert? Why do I hear an echo? Oh, God.
Hey, all you freaky-ass maniacs. Click the like button and send in your super chats. I'm going to take a shit on this couch.
Jets got to get things going next week. I mean, they play Pittsburgh and they play New England after that, and probably the week after New England's the bye week. They're going to play Miami twice in December. They've got the Texans. I think they're going to play Jacksonville again. I mean, you all have a good week.
Thank you very much, Robert C. God, that got me. That's a bad football team that is poorly coached.
It's a sad life being a Jets fan, man.
I'm just destroyed with this team.
I hate them. I hate them.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. Death taxes and the Jets just stabbing a stake in our hearts.
We have all this talent and can't do anything with it.
I've got no words. It was brutal.
25.
I don't even know what to say.
I don't know how much more I could take for this.
They are doing irreparable damage to this fan base.